Why not go for the big deal at this point? You mentioned the president's position earlier. His position always was $2 or $3 in spending cuts for every dollar in new revenue. Right now, you're going at a rate of $4 in spending cuts for every dollar in new revenue. Are you prepared to sit down and talk about a much bigger deal?
Well, George, what the president is now, what he pushed recently in the Senate this week, the $85 billion small deal with tax increases, that's not going to work. If we're going to increase revenue again, it's got to go to the debt with real entitlement reform and real tax reform where you actually lower rates. And I think that none of that's been in this discussion. So absolutely, I think we need to do a big agreement for the country because we haven't dealt with the fundamental drivers of our debt, the entitlement programs, and the tax reform has to be done uniformly and lower rates.
But are you willing, then, let me just be clear here, you're willing, if tax reform goes forward and if the president is willing to talk about entitlement reform and Medicare and Medicaid, other entitlement programs, you're saying you're willing to have an agreement that actually raises revenue? Or does it have to be revenue neutral tax reform?
I am willing to say if we take the form of lowering rates so that we can focus on economic growth, and then we take a portion of that and apply it to the debt with real entitlement reform, but it has to go to the debt. I'm not going to agree to any more tax increases that are going to go to increase more government. I mean, here we are. That's what the latest proposal is from the president. This sequester has to be dealt with within existing spending and alternative cuts, and we need real entitlement reform and real tax reform. That's what we need for the country if we're going to drive down our debt and also be focused on economic growth.
That might be a little bit of an opening that can be seized on later, although it may not happen anytime soon. But Senator Ayotte, thank you very much for your time this morning.